These two 11-year-old black twins found a billionaire's wallet. What they did next shocked him. Damon and Derek Williams were hungry, desperate. Their grandmother was dying. Then they found $50,000 in cash. But that wasn't what shocked the billionaire. It was what else was inside that wallet. Documents so sensitive they could have made these children millionaires overnight. Secrets that could destroy his entire empire. He watched through security cameras as the twins opened his wallet, saw them discover his biggest vulnerabilities, his corporate secrets, his personal fortune access codes. Any adult would have exploited this gold mine. Most children would have been curious enough to look deeper. But these boys did something that left a tech billionaire speechless. They had every reason to take advantage, every excuse to help themselves first. Instead, their choice revealed a character so pure it would change not just their lives but an entire community. This is their story. To understand why their choice shocked a billionaire, you need to see what 11-year-old Damon and Derek Williams faced every single day. The rusty alarm clock buzzed at 5 a.m. in their cramped trailer. The boys shared a single mattress on the floor while Grandma Louise slept on the fold-out couch. Her diabetes made her nights restless. Her groans of pain woke them most mornings. The twins had learned to move quietly. Grandma needed every minute of sleep she could get. Derek, the slightly older twin by 12 minutes, always woke first. He'd shake Damon gently and whisper the same thing every morning. Time to hunt. That's what they called collecting aluminum cans, hunting. They'd slip out of the trailer before dawn, leaving Grandma a note. Gone to school early. Love you. She didn't need to know about the hunting. She was worried enough already. Their first stop was always behind Murphy's Diner on 53rd Street. The workers threw out soda cans from the previous night's service. On a good morning, they'd find 20 cans. That was $1. Damon was the gentler twin. He'd sketch pictures of houses in his notebook margins during these morning hunts. Houses with electricity that stayed on. Refrigerators with food inside. Bedrooms where kids didn't share mattresses. Derek was the protector. He memorized which dumpsters were safe and which belonged to business owners who called the police on vagrant children. He kept a mental list of every pharmacy's insulin prices. Walgreens, $180. CVS, $195. The clinic downtown, $200, but they do payment plans. School started at 8 a.m., but the boys arrived by 7:15. The building opened early for breakfast program kids, free toast and juice, their only guaranteed meal of the day. They shared one backpack between them. Derek carried it on odd days, Damon on even days. Inside, 2 notebooks, 3 pencils worn down to stubs, and a calculator with a cracked screen that still worked if you pressed the numbers just right. During lunch, while other kids complained about cafeteria food, the twins ate every bite. They'd save the apple for later, sharing it as an after-school snack during afternoon hunting. Their teachers knew something was different about the Williams boys. Always polite. Never caused trouble. Homework is always completed despite obvious exhaustion. But when Mrs. Patterson, their 5th grade teacher, asked if everything was okay at home, they'd smile and say, "Yes, ma'am. Everything's fine." After school came the real hunting. The financial district threw away lunch cans from expensive restaurants. Business people in suits would toss half-full soda bottles like they were worthless. The twins would wait until the coast was clear, then dig through the clean garbage bins. They'd learn to dress neatly for these afternoon hunts. Clean faces, tucked-in shirts. If they looked like kids walking home from school instead of homeless children scavenging, security guards ignored them. Derek had developed a system. He could spot aluminum from 50 yards away. His eyes were trained to distinguish between profitable bottles and worthless plastic. Damon was better at the actual retrieval. His smaller hands could reach deeper into bins without making noise. By 4 p.m., they'd meet at their counting spot under the Wabash Bridge. Spread out the day's collection. Count together. Derek did the math. Damon sorted by size. 12 cans were made 50 cents at the recycling center. Their best day ever. 43 cans, $2.15. They'd celebrated by buying Grandma a candy bar. Her smile that night made them feel rich. But most days brought 8 to 15 cans, enough for one person's bus fare or a single school lunch for tomorrow. Never enough for both. They walked everywhere. 2 miles to school, to be 3 miles to the recycling center, mile and a half back home. Their shoes had holes, but they stuffed newspaper inside to keep their feet dry. Evenings were homework time by candlelight. The electricity had been shut off 6 weeks ago. Grandma told them it was temporary, but Derek had seen the disconnection notice. They owed $340 to ComEd. Might as well have been $1 million. Grandma Louise tried to hide her condition from the boys. She'd learned to inject insulin in the bathroom with the door locked. But the twins noticed everything. How she'd skip meals, claiming she wasn't hungry. How she'd count and recount her remaining insulin doses. How she'd sit very still when she thought the boys weren't watching, just breathing carefully. They knew she was rationing her medicine, making each dose last longer by taking less. It was dangerous, but insulin cost more than food, and kids needed food to learn. The boys had developed their own secret system. They'd take turns staying awake to watch her breathing at night. If it got too shallow or too fast, they'd wake the other twin. So far, she's been okay. But they lived in constant fear of finding her unconscious. Their most treasured possession was a faded photo of Grandma from when she was young and healthy. On the back, in her handwriting, "Character is what you do when nobody's watching. Broke doesn't mean broken inside." The twins carried this photo everywhere. When Derek wanted to keep extra cans they'd found, Damon would pull out the photo. When Damon suggested skipping school to hunt all day, Derek would show him Grandma's words. They'd made a pact. Whatever happened, they'd never let poverty break what was inside them. They had no idea how soon that pact would be tested. Thursday afternoon arrived like a storm nobody saw coming. Derek counted their morning's collection for the third time. 11 cans, 55 cents. They needed $143 more by 6 p.m., or Grandma Louise would run out of insulin completely. The pharmacy had been clear. No partial payments, no credit, cash only. Damon checked his phone. 4 missed calls from home. His stomach dropped. Grandma never called during school hours unless something was terribly wrong. They ran. 2 miles through Chicago's streets, backpack bouncing between them as they switched off, carrying it every few blocks. Derek's lungs burned. Damon stumbled twice but kept running. The trailer door stood wide open. Never a good sign. Inside, Mrs. Rodriguez from next door was cleaning up spilled orange juice and scattered pills. Her face was grim. "Where's Grandma?" Derek gasped. "Hospital, mijo. The ambulance took her an hour ago." The words hit like a punch. Damon sank onto the couch where Grandma usually slept. Mrs. Rodriguez explained. She'd heard a crash around noon, found Louise unconscious on the kitchen floor, an insulin pen empty beside her. Classic diabetic emergency. "St. Mary's Hospital," she said softly. "But boys, you need to know. They're asking about insurance, about family support." Derek's mind raced. No insurance meant no treatment. No family support meant social services. They grabbed the coffee can containing their life savings. $47.23 in crumpled bills and coins. Not even enough for a taxi to the hospital. The bus ride to St. Mary's took forever. Damon stared out the window while Derek calculated costs in his head. Hospital visit, at least $500. Insulin prescription, $200 more. Tests and blood work, probably another $300. They needed $1,000 minimum. They had 47. At the hospital, a tired nurse directed them to the financial counselor's office. Mrs. Carter, middle-aged with kind eyes, explained their options. "Your grandmother is stable, but she needs immediate insulin regulation and monitoring. Without insurance, we require a $500 deposit before discharge." Derek swallowed hard. "How long do we have?" The financial office closes at 5 p.m. After that, we'll have to contact social services about temporary guardianship arrangements. Damon understood immediately. Foster care, separation, everything they'd fought to avoid. Mrs. Carter continued gently. Are there any relatives who could help? Any family friends? The twins looked at each other. No relatives. No family friends with money. Just two 11-year-old boys and a coffee can with $47. Can we see her? Damon whispered. Room 312. But boys, I need an answer about payment by 5 o'clock. Grandma Louise looked small in the hospital bed, tubes in her arm, monitors beeping softly. Her eyes were closed, but she was breathing steadily. Derek took her hand. We're here, Grandma. Her eyes fluttered open, focused on them slowly. My boys, she whispered. I'm sorry, I tried to make the insulin last longer. Don't apologize, Damon said. We're going to fix this. But how? They had 2 hours until the financial office closed, 2 hours to find money they didn't have, 2 hours before social services arrived to take them away. Outside her room, they sat on plastic chairs and counted their money again. Still $47.23. Still not enough. We could ask the church, Damon suggested. They helped us last month with the electric bill. They won't have this much cash available. Food bank? Food only. No money for medicine. Derek stared at the hospital's shiny floors. Rich people's children didn't sit in hallways worrying about whether their grandmothers would live or die over $200. A doctor walked by carrying an expensive leather briefcase. A businessman talked loudly on his phone about $1,000 dinners. A woman complained to the gift shop clerk that $20 was too much for flowers. All around them, people threw away more money in a day than the twins had seen in their entire lives. We need a miracle, Damon said quietly. Derek checked the time. 3:30 p.m. 90 minutes left. He stood up. Come on. Where? Back to hunting. If we find enough cans in the next hour, maybe we can at least show them we're trying. Maybe they'll give us more time. It was desperate, impossible, but it was all they had. They left Grandma's room with promises to return before 5. Took the bus back toward the financial district where the hunting was best. Neither twin spoke during the ride. They both knew 43 cans wouldn't save their grandmother, wouldn't keep them together, wouldn't change anything. But they had to try. The bus dropped them off at LaSalle Street. Expensive office buildings stretched toward the sky. People in suits walked quickly, talking on phones, completely unaware that two children's entire world was about to collapse. Derek adjusted the empty garbage bag in his pocket. Ready? Damon nodded. They had no idea they were about to find something that would change everything. What happened next would prove that some children have more integrity than most adults, even when facing impossible choices. Derek spotted it first. Behind a black Mercedes in the executive parking garage beneath Harrison Tech Tower, something leather caught the afternoon light. Expensive. Out of place among the concrete and shadows. Damon, he whispered. Look. They approached carefully. Security cameras everywhere in places like this. Rich people's parking spaces meant rich people's security. It was a wallet. Thick leather, the kind that cost more than the twins' monthly food budget. It had fallen behind the rear tire, probably dropped when the owner got out of the car. Derek looked around. Empty garage, no security guards visible. Just two desperate children, and what might be their miracle. He picked it up. The leather was soft, expensive, heavy with contents. Derek's hands trembled as he opened it. His breath caught. Cash. More cash than he'd ever seen outside of movies. Thick stacks of $100 bills held together with silver clips. Derek's eyes darted across the bills. 5, 10, 15. He stopped counting at 20 stacks. "How much?" Damon whispered. "I don't know. A lot. More than enough." Behind the cash, credit cards. Black American Express. Platinum Visa. Business cards with raised lettering. Robert Harrison, Chief Executive Officer, Harrison Technologies. And then Derek saw the other things. A USB drive labeled Classified. Harrison Tech Project Guardian. Printed emails marked Confidential in red stamps. A small notebook page with handwritten passwords and account numbers. Papers that looked important in ways the boys didn't understand but could sense. Damon peered over his brother's shoulder. "Derek, this looks like secret stuff." "I know." They stared at the wallet's contents. Around them, the parking garage hummed with ventilation systems and distant traffic. Above them, thousands of people worked in offices, unaware that two 11-year-old boys held someone's entire financial life in their hands. Derek's mind raced. This money could save Grandma, could pay for her insulin, her hospital bills, maybe months of medical care, could keep them together as a family. The businessman who owned this wallet drove a Mercedes, lived in a world where losing a few $1,000s probably meant nothing, where wallet contents like this were replaceable. "We could take just enough for Grandma," Derek whispered. "Just $200. He'd never miss it." Damon chewed his lip. "But it's not ours. We're not stealing it. We're borrowing it. We could pay it back someday when we're older." "How would we pay it back if we don't know who he is?" Derek looked at the business cards again. Robert Harrison, Chief Executive Officer. The address was right here in this building. We could return the wallet and ask for a reward. Rich people give rewards for returned wallets, right? Damon pulled out Grandma's photo from his pocket, the one with her handwriting on the back. "Character is what you do when nobody's watching." "But Grandma's dying, Damon, and nobody is watching." "We're watching." Derek closed the wallet. I opened it again. The cash seemed to glow under the garage's fluorescent lights. Enough money to solve every problem they'd ever had. His phone buzzed. Text message from Mrs. Carter at the hospital. "Boys, checking in. Do you have an update on payment? We need to know by 4:45 p.m. 4:45 p.m. They had 30 minutes. "Derek," Damon said quietly, "what would Mom and Dad have done?" The twins had only fuzzy memories of their parents, but Grandma had told them stories. How their father once returned a wallet with $3,000 to a family at Christmas. How their mother gave away her grocery money to help a neighbor pay rent. They would have returned it, Derek admitted, even if it meant losing everything. Derek stared at the wallet again, at the cash that could save their grandmother's life, at the documents that might be worth even more than the money. He made his choice. "Come on, we're going upstairs." The elevator ride to the 32nd floor felt endless. The twins stood in the corner, Derek clutching the wallet against his chest. Damon pressed the button for floor 32 with a shaking finger. "What if they don't believe we found it?" Damon whispered. "What if they think we stole it? What if they call the police?" The elevator dinged. Doors opened to reveal a gleaming reception area with marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Chicago. A security guard looked up from his desk, large, uniformed, suspicious. "You boys lost?" Derek's voice cracked. "We need to return something to Mr. Harrison." "Return what?" Derek held up the wallet. "This. We found it in the parking garage." The guard's eyebrows raised. He picked up his phone, spoke quietly into it. 2 minutes later, a woman in an expensive business suit emerged from a hallway. Elizabeth Morrison, according to her name tag, assistant to the CEO. "You boys found Mr. Harrison's wallet?" "Yes, ma'am," Damon said. "Behind his car downstairs." Elizabeth studied their faces. Two 11-year-old boys in clothes that had seen better days, holding a wallet worth more than most people's monthly salary. "Did you look inside?" The twins exchanged glances. They could lie, say they hadn't opened it, but Grandma had taught them that lies always caught up with you eventually. "Yes, ma'am," Derek said. "We had to check for identification so we could return it to the right person." "And what did you see?" "Money, and papers that looked important, but we didn't read the papers because they said confidential." Elizabeth's expression shifted. Something like surprise mixed with disbelief. "Wait here." She disappeared down the hallway with the wallet. The twins waited in the marble lobby, watching business people stride past in expensive shoes. Everyone looked important. Everyone looked like they belonged. The twins felt very small. Elizabeth returned 5 minutes later with a tall man in his 50s. Silver hair, kind eyes, expensive suit that fit perfectly. Robert Harrison himself. "You boys found my wallet?" "Yes, sir," Derek managed. Harrison took the wallet from Elizabeth, opened it carefully, checked the cash, the cards, the documents, everything exactly where he'd left it. He looked up at the twins with an expression they couldn't read. "Did anyone see you find this?" "No, sir." "And you brought it straight here?" "Yes, sir." Harrison was quiet for a long moment, studying their faces. "Why?" The question hung in the air. Derek thought about Grandma dying in a hospital bed, about social services coming at 5 p.m., about foster care and separation and everything they were about to lose. He thought about the easy answer. "We need money for medicine." Instead, he heard himself say, "Because it's yours, sir. And our grandma taught us that broken doesn't mean broken inside." Something changed in Harrison's eyes. Everything was about to change. Harrison thought he understood human nature after 30 years in business, but these children were about to teach him something that would change his entire worldview. Robert Harrison stared at the two boys in his marble lobby. 11 years old, obviously poor, but carrying themselves with dignity most of his business partners lacked. "Your grandmother taught you that?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir," Damon said. "She raised us after our parents died." Harrison opened his wallet again. $52,000 in cash, classified documents, personal banking passwords. These children had held the power to destroy his company. Instead, they'd ridden the bus across Chicago to return it. "I'd like to give you boys a reward," Harrison said. Derek and Damon exchanged glances. "That's not necessary, sir," Derek replied. "How about $1,000 each?" Elizabeth Morrison watched, amazed. She'd worked for Billionaires for 15 years. She'd seen people fight over lunch receipts, steal credit for $1,000 ideas. These boys were turning down $2,000. "Sir," Damon said carefully, "could we maybe ask for something different?" "What did you have in mind?" "Our grandma's in the hospital. She needs medicine. Could we maybe have $200 for her insulin?" The words hit Harrison like a physical blow. These children could have taken $52,000. They were asking for $200. "Elizabeth," Harrison said quietly, "call my driver. We're going to St. Mary's Hospital." "Sir?" Derek looked confused. "Your grandmother needs insulin. I'm handling this personally." The ride took 12 minutes in Harrison's black SUV. The twins sat in leather seats that cost more than everything they owned. "Why are you helping us?" Damon asked. Harrison considered the question. "Because you boys just proved something I thought was extinct." "What's that, sir?" "Integrity." At the hospital, Harrison strode through corridors like he owned the place, which, the twins learned later, he practically did. In the financial office, Mrs. Carter recognized him immediately. "Mr. Harrison, how can I help you?" "Louise Williams's account. I'm covering all medical expenses, current and future." Mrs. Carter's eyes widened. "All expenses?" "Everything. Hospital stay, medications, follow-up care, unlimited medical credit under Harrison Technologies' corporate account." He turned to the twins. "Your grandmother will never worry about insulin again." Derek's voice was barely a whisper. Why? Because what you did today was worth more than any amount of money. In Grandma Louise's room, she was awake and alert. Boys, she said weakly, who is this gentleman? Ma'am, Harrison said, I'm Robert Harrison. Your grandson saved my company today. Saved your company? How? They found my wallet. Inside were documents that could have destroyed my business. Instead of taking advantage, they brought it straight back. Louise's eyes filled with tears. That's how I raised them. I can see that, and I want to make sure you know how extraordinary they are. Harrison pulled Elizabeth aside in the hallway. Run a complete security analysis on those documents, he whispered. I need to understand exactly what these boys could have done. 30 minutes later, Elizabeth called back. Robert, the USB contains our Guardian AI project, worth $50 million to competitors. The emails detail our acquisition strategy. That's the potential for billions in stock manipulation. And the passwords access your Cayman accounts. $47 million. Harrison felt his knees weaken. Two 11-year-old boys had held nearly $100 million in opportunities. They'd asked for $200 to save their grandmother's life. He stared at the twins through the hospital window. They were holding their grandmother's hands, telling her about their day. In 30 years of business, Harrison had never encountered such pure character. He pulled out his phone. Elizabeth, clear my calendar for the rest of the week. Get our legal team working on something special. These boys just reminded me why I got into business in the first place. Something extraordinary was about to begin. While the twins returned to their normal life, Harrison was starting an investigation that would change everything they thought they knew about their future. Harrison convened an emergency weekend meeting in his private conference room. His core team sat around the mahogany table, confused by the urgency. I need complete background checks on the Williams family, Harrison announced. Everything. School records, medical history, family lineage going back 2 generations. His chief legal officer raised an eyebrow. Sir, is this about the wallet? Those boys could have destroyed us. Instead, they asked for $200 to save their grandmother. Elizabeth Morrison opened a thick manila folder marked Project Guardian Angel. She'd been guarding it from the other executives all morning. I've already started preliminary research, she said. There's something you need to see. Meanwhile, the twins had no idea they were being investigated. They returned to Lincoln Elementary Monday morning as local celebrities. Their classmates had heard about the wallet on weekend news. Derek, is it true you found $50,000? Asked Jenny Martinez during recess. We just returned what wasn't ours, Derek replied quietly. But why didn't you keep some? Damon pulled out the faded photo of Grandma Louise. Because broken doesn't mean broken inside. In Harrison's office, mysterious activity continued. His accountant received unusual instructions. Prepare trust fund documentation for minor beneficiaries, large amounts, confidential. Educational consultants were contacted. Best private schools in Chicago, immediate enrollment possible, money no object. The child psychologists were interviewed. Help me understand children who choose integrity over survival. Harrison's office wall displayed something new, a photo from 30 years ago. Young Harrison at age 11, thin and desperate, standing outside a homeless shelter. In the corner of the frame, barely visible, 2 teenage figures helped him to his feet. He'd kept that photo hidden for decades. Now it sat prominently on his desk. Elizabeth entered with an update. The investigation is complete. Robert, what I found will shock you. Tell me. Louise Williams wasn't just any grandmother. She was a teacher who volunteered at homeless shelters. She wrote letters to businesses requesting job opportunities for foster children. Harrison's pulse quickened. But that's not the extraordinary part, Elizabeth continued. Her son and daughter-in-law, James and Maria Williams, died in a car accident 6 years ago. The twins' parents. Robert, I found newspaper clippings. James and Maria Williams were known for helping homeless children. They ran an unofficial shelter in their apartment. Harrison touched the bracelet on his wrist, the one he'd worn for 30 years. There's more, Elizabeth said. I found photos from the shelter where you lived. James and Maria Williams volunteered there, regularly. Harrison's hands trembled. Are you saying... I'm saying these boys' parents might have known you 30 years ago. Tomorrow's meeting will reveal a connection that changes everything. The twins had no idea their honesty had unlocked a 30-year mystery. Friday morning at Lincoln Elementary, the twins were about to discover that their simple act of honesty had uncovered a connection spanning 30 years. Elizabeth Morrison arrived at Lincoln Elementary as a guest speaker. The principal introduced her to the 5th grade class as a representative from Harrison Tech, here to talk about careers in technology. Damon and Derek sat in the front row, excited to see the nice lady from the elevator again. Hello, boys, Elizabeth smiled. How's your grandmother? Much better, thank you, ma'am, Damon replied. Elizabeth began her presentation to 30 fifth graders about technology careers, but she kept glancing at the twins. She showed pictures of Harrison Tech's building, employees, and company history. Our CEO, Mr. Harrison, started this company with a simple belief, she said. That good character is more valuable than all the money in the world, and recently, 2 students from this very school proved that to him. All eyes turned to the twins. They sank lower in their seats, embarrassed by the attention. But before I tell you about that, Elizabeth continued, I want to show you something special about Mr. Harrison himself. She clicked a new slide. An old photograph appeared on the smartboard. 11-year-old Robert Harrison, thin, dirty clothes, standing outside a homeless shelter with a handmade cardboard sign reading, "Will work for food." The class gasped. Several students looked shocked that the rich CEO had once been homeless. Mr. Harrison was homeless when he was your age, Elizabeth explained. Just like some of you might be facing hard times now. Teacher Mrs. Patterson looked surprised. Several students shifted uncomfortably, recognizing their own hidden struggles. Mr. Harrison lived at Foster Care Center on 47th Street. Does anyone know where that is? Derek raised his hand tentatively. Our mom and dad lived there before they died. Elizabeth's voice softened. Your parents were James and Maria Williams? The twins nodded, confused about how she knew their parents' names. Class, I need to tell you something very special about Damon and Derek's parents. She clicked another slide. A newspaper clipping from 30 years ago. Local teens save homeless boy. Your parents saved Mr. Harrison's life when he was your age. The classroom fell silent. Derek grabbed Damon's hand under their desk. Elizabeth's voice grew emotional. 30 years ago, 11-year-old Robert Harrison was beaten up by older kids and left unconscious in an alley. 2 teenagers found him, James and Maria Williams. They carried him to safety, shared their only meal with him, stayed with him in the hospital. She showed another photo. Teenage James and Maria Williams standing beside a hospital bed where young Harrison lay recovering. James and Maria never told Robert their names, but they gave him something before they left. Elizabeth displayed a close-up photo of Harrison's wrist, showing the worn bracelet he still wore daily. They said, "Remember that someone cared when you needed it most. Pass it forward when you can." Both twins began crying. They recognized the bracelet from old photos Grandma had shown them. Our parents never told us about this, Damon whispered. They died when we were 6, Derek added. Car accident. I know, Elizabeth said gently. And after your parents died, Mr. Harrison tried to find you boys. But you were already in foster care and the records were sealed. He's been looking for James and Maria Williams' children for 5 years. She clicked on another slide showing official documents. When your parents died, Mr. Harrison established a memorial fund in their honor. $2 million for education, specifically designated for their children when they were found. The twins stared at the screen in shock. Every year since then, Mr. Harrison has donated to foster care systems across Chicago, always signed in memory of James and Maria Williams, always hoping someone would recognize the names and help him find you. Mrs. Patterson wiped tears from her eyes. This is incredible. But here's what makes this story extraordinary, Elizabeth continued. When you boys returned that wallet, Mr. Harrison didn't just see honest children. He saw the faces of James and Maria Williams. You have your father's eyes, Derek. And Damon, you have your mother's smile. She showed a side-by-side comparison. Photos of James and Maria Williams next to recent pictures of the twins. The circle of kindness came full circle after 30 years. Derek stood up, his voice shaking. Are you saying our parents really knew him? Your parents saved his life. They gave a homeless boy hope when he had nothing. They never asked for anything in return. And 30 years later, Elizabeth continued, their sons found his wallet containing classified secrets worth millions of dollars. You could have used that information to become rich. Instead, you brought it back, asking only for $200 to save your grandmother. She clicked to the final slide, the photo from Harrison's desk showing him at 11, with James and Maria Williams helping him to his feet. Your parents' kindness without expecting reward. You inherited that. Mr. Harrison says meeting you boys reminded him why he started his company in the first place. The emotional weight of the revelation hit the entire classroom. Other students were crying now, understanding they'd witnessed something extraordinary. Mr. Harrison would like to meet with you and your grandmother tonight, Elizabeth said. He has something very important to discuss. The twins exchanged overwhelmed glances. But first, he wants you to understand something. Your parents didn't just help a homeless boy 30 years ago. They helped someone who would grow up to employ thousands of people, create technologies that help millions, and build a company dedicated to proving that character matters more than profit. She paused, looking directly at Derek and Damon. Tonight, you'll learn what it means when kindness creates a debt that takes 30 years to repay. The twins were about to discover that their parents' legacy had been growing with compound interest for 3 decades. That evening, the twins and Grandma Louise were about to discover that sometimes kindness creates a debt that takes 30 years to repay. Harrison's driver picked up the Williams family from their trailer park. Grandma Louise, wearing her best dress from 20 years ago, sat nervously in the luxury SUV beside the twins. Boys, I still don't understand why this man is being so generous, she whispered. Grandma, Derek said softly, it's about Mom and Dad. They helped him when he was our age. The SUV pulled up to Harrison's estate in Chicago's Gold Coast. 15,000 square feet of limestone and glass with manicured gardens stretching toward Lake Michigan. People actually live like this? Damon whispered, staring at the mansion. Harrison greeted them personally at the front door, still wearing the faded bracelet James and Maria Williams had given him 30 years ago. Mrs. Williams, he said, extending his hand. Your grandsons are remarkable children, but I suspect you already know that. They're good boys, Louise replied carefully. Their parents would be proud. That's exactly why we're here tonight, to talk about their parents. Harrison led them to his comfortable living room. Despite the wealth surrounding them, the furniture felt warm and welcoming. Family photos covered the mantelpiece, showing Harrison's journey from homeless child to successful businessman. Mrs. Williams, Harrison began, sitting across from them. 30 years ago, I was an 11-year-old boy sleeping in alleys, beaten and left for dead. Your son and daughter-in-law found me unconscious and saved my life. Louise gasped. James never mentioned saving anyone. They didn't just save me that night, Harrison continued. They visited me in the hospital every day for 2 weeks, shared their dinner money with me, made me believe that someone in this world actually cared whether I lived or died. He pulled out a yellowed piece of paper, carefully preserved in a plastic sleeve. Your son James wrote this note and gave it to me before I was discharged. Louise read aloud. If we ever make it big, we'll find that homeless kid and help him succeed. James Williams, age 16. Her voice broke. That sounds exactly like something James would write. Mrs. Williams, I owe your family a debt I've carried for 30 years. Your son and daughter-in-law gave me hope when I had none. Before I could become successful enough to help them back, they were gone. Harrison's voice grew thick with emotion. When these boys returned my wallet, I realized God was giving me the chance to finally pay what I owe. He opened a leather portfolio filled with official documents. For your immediate family, I want to provide complete medical coverage for you, Mrs. Williams, for the rest of your life. No copays, no limits, no questions asked. Louise started to protest, but Harrison held up his hand. I also want to purchase a house for your family. 4 bedrooms in Lincoln Park near the best schools, paid in full, with a $50,000 annual stipend for living expenses until the boys graduate college. Derek and Damon stared at each other in shock. For Derek and Damon's education, Harrison continued, I want to offer immediate transfer to Lincoln Park Academy, Chicago's finest private school. Full tuition, books, uniforms, everything covered. He slid documents across the coffee table. But here's the bigger opportunity. I want to establish the James and Maria Williams Memorial Foundation with a $25 million endowment. $25 million? Louise whispered. When Derek and Damon turn 18, they'll become co-directors. The foundation will help homeless children and foster kids, continuing the work their parents started. Harrison leaned forward. Boys, I'll personally mentor you in business, technology, and leadership. Not because I have to, but because I want to see what James and Maria's sons can accomplish with real opportunities. What would we have to do? Derek asked quietly. Succeed. Study hard. Graduate from the best universities in the country, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, wherever you want to go, fully funded. Then use your education to help other kids who are where you were a week ago. Harrison pulled out another set of documents. The foundation will provide emergency housing for homeless families, scholarship programs for foster children, and job training for young adults aging out of the system. You'll be helping thousands of kids who need exactly what your parents gave me. Hope. Damon's voice was barely audible. Why are you doing all this? Because 30 years ago, your parents chose compassion over convenience. They helped a stranger when they had nothing to gain. That's the kind of character that changes the world. Harrison stood up and walked to his window overlooking the lake. But I need you to understand something. This comes with responsibility. You'll be representing your parents' memory. You'll be examples for other kids who think their circumstances define their future. What kind of responsibility? Louise asked. Public speaking at schools? Mentoring foster children? Showing the world that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. Your story, from homelessness to opportunity, will inspire millions of children. Derek stood up. Mr. Harrison, our parents would want us to help other kids like they helped you. And like you're helping us now, Damon added. Louise wiped tears from her eyes. James always said kindness was the only investment that always paid interest. Harrison smiled. There's one more thing. Your parents never knew what happened to that homeless boy they helped. I want to create a documentary about their story. Show the world how 2 teenagers' kindness created a tech empire that now employs 12,000 people. He walked back to the twins. The Williams family circle of kindness started 30 years ago. Tonight we're making sure it continues for the next 30 years. Derek and Damon realized they weren't just receiving help. They were inheriting a mission to multiply the kindness their parents had planted decades ago. The compound interest on compassion was about to change thousands of lives. 1 year later, the transformation wasn't just in the Williams family's life, but in an entire community that learned what real kindness looks like. The changes were impossible to ignore. Before, Damon and Derek collecting cans in torn shoes, sharing one backpack between them. After, walking into Lincoln Park Academy in tailored uniforms, each carrying monogrammed leather satchels. Before, Grandma Louise rationing insulin, hiding medical bills in a coffee can. After, Louise in her new garden, healthy and strong, teaching neighborhood kids about growing vegetables in raised beds behind their 4-bedroom home. The James and Maria Williams Memorial Foundation's grand opening drew 300 attendees to Chicago's Cultural Center. Mayor Johnson cut the ribbon alongside the twins while Grandma Louise beamed from the front row. 30 years ago, Harrison told the crowd, 2 teenagers taught me that kindness is an investment in humanity. Today, their sons are paying that investment forward with compound interest. Derek, now 12 and confident beyond his years, addressed the audience without notes. Our parents helped someone when they had nothing to gain. Now we get to help kids who need exactly what Mr. Harrison needs, someone who believes in them. The Foundation's first-year impact was measurable and profound. Second Chance shelters opened in 3 Chicago neighborhoods, providing temporary housing for 127 homeless families. Unlike traditional shelters, these offered private family rooms, on-site childcare, and job training programs. The Foster to Future Mentorship Program connected 89 successful adults with foster children aging out of the system. Each mentor committed to 3 years of guidance, helping with college applications, job interviews, and life skills. Character Counts Ethics Education launched in 12 Chicago elementary schools, reaching 2,400 students. The curriculum, designed by Derek and Damon with child psychologists, taught decision-making through real-life scenarios. An emergency fund distributed $150,000 in the first year for medical emergencies, housing deposits, and educational supplies. Every dollar came with a simple requirement. Recipients had to perform 10 hours of community service. The media attention transformed the twins into national symbols of childhood integrity. The Chicago Tribune featured them on the front page. Twins turn honesty into hope for thousands. CNN's Anderson Cooper interviewed them for his special series, Everyday Heroes. Forbes named them America's youngest philanthropists, noting that their foundation operated with zero administrative overhead since Harrison Tech covered all operational costs. 60 Minutes followed them for 6 months, documenting their transition from homelessness to national recognition. The ripple effects spread far beyond Chicago. Microsoft Seattle created a $50 million character and leadership initiative after their CEO met the twins at a tech conference. Bank of America established the Honest Kids Scholarship Program, providing college funding specifically for children who demonstrated integrity over advantage. Local businesses across Chicago adopted the Williams Standard, integrity-based hiring practices that prioritized character alongside qualifications. Chicago public schools added mandatory character education to their core curriculum, using the twins' story as a foundational case study. Political impact followed quickly. Illinois Governor Martinez signed the Williams Act into law, requiring life skills training for all foster children and establishing state matching funds for character-based youth programs. The state allocated $25 million annually for homeless family services, directly inspired by the Foundation's success model. National Volunteer Recognition Day was declared an official Illinois holiday, with the twins as the first honorees. At Lincoln Park Academy, Derek excelled in advanced business classes, already drafting expansion plans for the Foundation's national rollout. His teachers noted his unusual combination of strategic thinking and genuine compassion. Damon discovered a passion for computer science, developing a mobile app called Find Help that connected homeless individuals with the nearest available services. Downloaded 50,000 times in 6 months, the app was adopted by cities nationwide. Grandma Louise became the Foundation's volunteer coordinator, her gentle wisdom guiding newly hired staff. Her most quoted advice, These boys didn't just find a wallet, they found their purpose. The documentary Finding Home, the James and Maria Williams story, premiered at the Chicago Film Festival. Featuring interviews with Harrison, the twins, and Grandma Louise, it won the Social Impact Documentary Award and generated $10 million in licensing fees to fund foundation operations for a decade. National recognition followed. President Williams invited the family to the White House for the National Volunteer Recognition Ceremony, calling them proof that character, not circumstances, determines destiny. Charity Navigator named Derek and Damon Youth Philanthropists of the Year. The American Business Ethics Association awarded Harrison their Lifetime Achievement in Character honor. The foundation model was replicated in 15 cities nationwide, each adapting the Chicago blueprint to local needs. By year's end, the foundation's annual report showed remarkable results. 847 homeless individuals provided housing assistance, 156 foster children connected with mentors, and 89% of program participants found stable employment or education. Most importantly, 2,400 elementary students completed character education programs, learning that integrity was more valuable than any material advantage. The transformation was complete. From invisible children to national examples, from poverty to purpose, from finding a wallet to finding their life's calling. But the most important transformation was still to come, proving that the best lessons are taught by example. 5 years later, the cycle completed itself in the most beautiful way. Derek and Damon Williams, now 16, drove through downtown Chicago in the Foundation's community outreach van. They were responding to a call about 2 children found alone behind a restaurant. The location was familiar. The same financial district where they'd once collected cans. The same alley where their lives had changed forever. They found Sarah, 8, and her little brother, Marcus, 6, hiding behind a dumpster, clutching a torn garbage bag. Recently placed in emergency foster care, they'd run away after being separated. Derek approached slowly, remembering his own fear at their age. "Hi there. I'm Derek. This is my brother Damon. We're here to help." Sarah stepped protectively in front of Marcus. "We don't need help. We're fine." Damon smiled gently. "That's exactly what we used to say when we were your age." The twins didn't overwhelm the children with their story immediately. They provided what was needed: warm clothes, juice boxes, blankets, and patience. Only after Sarah and Marcus felt safe did Derek share. 5 years ago, we lived under a bridge not far from here." He showed them a photo, himself and Damon at 11, dirty and desperate in this same neighborhood. "Someone helped us when we had nothing," Damon explained. "Now we get to help you." Within an hour, the children were settled in the Foundation's family shelter, connected with foster parents trained to keep siblings together. As they prepared to leave, Marcus spotted something glinting near the restaurant's door. An expensive watch, clearly dropped by someone. Sarah reached for it instinctively. Damon gently stopped her hand. "Hold on, sweetie. Let's see if we can find who this belongs to first." Derek examined the watch, engraved, "To David Carter, love, Grandpa." 20 minutes later, they'd tracked down the owner. David Carter, 22, a young entrepreneur, had been frantically searching for his grandfather's watch, his only memento of him. When David arrived, tears streaming, he tried to offer a reward. The twins declined politely. "But could we ask something?" Derek said. "Would you be interested in volunteering with kids who need mentors?" David became their newest volunteer coordinator that week. As the van drove away, Derek reflected on the journey. "Remember what Grandma Louise always said?" he asked Damon. "What goes around comes around." "But we learned something more," Damon replied. "Kindness doesn't just come back to you. It flows through you to the next person who needs it." On the van's window, a decal read, "Character is what you do when nobody's watching. Pass it forward." And behind them, David Carter was researching volunteer opportunities, inspired by two teenagers who'd returned his grandfather's watch without expecting anything. The kindness tradition continued, multiplying across generations, proving that the most valuable inheritance isn't money, it's choosing to help others when you have every excuse not to. Today, there are 400,000 children in America's foster care system, and 20,000 age out each year with nowhere to go. The Williams Family Foundation has helped over 3,000 children find homes, education, and hope, but thousands more are still waiting. Every act of childhood integrity creates ripples that last decades. Damon and Derek's decision to return that wallet didn't just change their lives. It reminded an entire community what real character looks like. You don't need to find a billionaire's wallet to make a difference. You can mentor a child who needs guidance, support a local foster care program. Teach your own children that honesty matters more than advantage. Character isn't built by what you receive. It's built by what you choose to do when no one is watching. If this story moved you, share it with a child who needs to see that good choices lead to good outcomes. Like this video if you believe integrity still matters. Subscribe for more stories proving that character counts. What act of kindness will you choose today?
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.